to episode 176 of Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast. My name is Jack, followed by my hosts of
Brian,
Duncan,
and John,
and Jack. So we have a packed-filled show of Hobby, which I'm assuming John is going to do all the talking, and I may take a nap. Duncan will grunt non-committedly, and Brian will talk about drop pods. But before we get to about drop pods, we're going to do a quick station notification.
Do you love resin bases? Then go to our sponsor, Elric Hobbies, for all of your basing and basing accessory needs. Use code HERESYABB at checkout for a discount. Legendary Monument Hobbies. Monument Hobbies is a one-stop shop for all of your painting needs. Use code HERESYABB at checkout for a 5% discount on your purchase. Pop Goes the Monkey. Find maker of third-party accessory bits of arms, legs, backpacks, and more, where you can get 10% off your first order over $125 with code HERESYABB at checkout.
Notification. And
I feel attacked.
Thank
I
you.
feel attacked because all the explosions outside.
Thank you to our patrons. I'm keeping all of that in because it's the truth. So hobby, Brian hobby. How's hobby, Brian?
Hobby is hobby. I have been working on this Zone Mortalis terrain that I've been neglecting for quite a while, and I got 3 of the 4 drop pod bays that Jamie printed up for me last year assembled and primed black. I have one that I had an error while assembling. And I'm going to have to do some sanding to get the doors to fit into the central ring because they don't just slide in easy. I've got some spots I have to shave down. But I also ran out of black primer and forgot to buy some when I went to the store.
Are we not going to make any jokes about Brian sliding into the central ring?
No, we're not.
Okay.
Nope. Move right on through it.
That's sad. Okay. What else have you done, Brian?
I realize that I'm 2 tiles short of making 2 4x3 ZM boards with the Forge World table that I have on semi-permanent loan from a friend. So I realized I could just take 2 of the 1x1 MDF squares I have cut out for another project, and I'm going to paint them up as like a landing bay type-esque deal. Spent some time yesterday trying to wrap my head around how I want to do that, and I think I got it figured out using some masking tape and some spray paint. So those will fill in the last 2 spots, and it will also alleviate the chronic issue that board has had, where there were only 1 empty tile when the guy that originally bought it acquired it all. So if you use the board as it was when we first painted it, it had way too many dead ends and was not really functional. We had printed off another empty tile and painted it to match when we did the paint job on that board. But it still was too cramped. But adding in the drop pod tiles opens things up a bit. And then those further 2 landing pad-esque tiles, which I have aircraft to drop in for scatter terrain, is going to help a lot and make it more of like a, yeah, this makes sense, I could see this inside of a spaceship type deal instead of what the fuck is going on with this maze of bullshittery. Outside that, I didn't really work too much on any of my armies. I had maybe 1,500 to 2,000 points of Thousand Suns given to me that I had airbrushed for a guy, but he decided he was never going to do anything with it, so he gave it to me the other day this week, and now I got to figure out something to do with them. I don't know of anybody locally that's looking for 1,000 Suns, but they're the candy apple red. Remember, Jack, breathe the fumes, taste space.
Be a man. Be a man.
Be a man. That's about all I did. What about you, Duncan?
The past week I have primed tanks. And then I ran out of the primer I was using. So I only got the 3 rhinos and the hull and turret, not the guns, of the Kratos done. I also put green stuff filling a hole on the Sakaran that I found due to assembly and plastic tolerances being ignored by apparently me, leaving a piece of a burr on there. So I got that fixed. And then I went and got more paint this weekend for the primer, so I'll be finishing the priming job on all the tanks this week. Then I'll start with the first zenithal highlight of all of them for this week, and then we'll see about starting with the blues on these tanks. Yeah, this is going to be fun.
I have to ask, have you got the Dare deal put together yet?
No, so far I've only assembled the tanks.
What a bitch.
Yeah, I know, but I have a good reason for it.
Okay.
So I'm going to use the rhinos, which would be the first things I paint, to 100% lock down the style paint-wise I want to do and the color scheme for how I want my blues to look. So once I get that knocked down, then I can worry about doing something else.
Fair enough.
So that's where I'm at right now. And for those who are wondering what the blues are, I'll talk about that later. Maybe. I don't know. Jack, what have you done this glorious week hobby-wise?
Well, after the show last week, talking to you all, I apparently decided I needed 3 more Xiphons. Because it's Duncan's fault.
Did he tell you you didn't have hair on your butt?
He definitely told me I did not have a single hair on my testiculars if I didn't do it.
I think I said that you shouldn't do it, not that you didn't have hair. I specifically said that I thought it would be a fun idea to waste time and not do anything to actually have a productive reason or want or desire. But, you do you.
So I've been busy manufacturing Xiphons this week. Didn't lose any fingers through the great festival of freedom over the weekend, and I will talk about it more apparently in the hobby section of this. But been playing with some new paints. Not planning on redoing the Ultramarines for the 87th time. But just throwing on some couple new blues that I can start slowly working in that fit with the same color scheme that I have, and trying out new paints as I go. And then just working on pieces of armor here and there. So, John.
Yeah, I was able to sell a lot of sealed magic cards last week, so I was able to free up some space and started taking apart my actual decks, and then I just dumped all the loose dice in this giant bucket. And then I sorted said bucket, and it turns out that I have like 20 extra scattered die and a bunch of other GW dice randomly around the house that I all got organized. Texas weather finally decided that humidity was a thing that we could do without for just a little bit. And so I was able to prime the 5 militia transports I'm using for my next Cobra list and the 2 Gorgons. And also had a Malkador Infernus and Valdor Tank Hunter in there for that. On the Mechanicum stuff for the New Year, New Army, I got the Vorax sealed, decaled, and then weathered them with oil wash, noosh wash, and some acrylic starship sludge that I found from AK, so I don't have to mix my own up anymore. I also got the Castellax and Thanatars washed. Then I got all their fancy cables installed on the Castellax and Thanatars. Andrew printed me ammo feeds for the Vorax, but I built them wrong, so I can't use them. So I'm using Zinj Industries movable resin ammo feeds for those, and I glued those all together and found out I was 4 4 acts short. So I'm waiting for those to come in to kind of finish up this New Year, New Army batch, even though it's due today. And then today I managed to get all the bases built, including all the weird gubbins I put on bases, like beer bottles and spent shell casings and skulls and dead people
Oh, wow.
on all those bases. I just need them to dry and then put the colors down on some extra stuff and then glue the minis down and then put a bunch of mud on the minis and then put tufts down and then put UV resin down. And they'll be done. And that's all I got done for hobby stuff.
Okay. Very nice.
Well, that sounds like a lot of stuff, John.
It helped that I had Friday off.
I got to ask, it seems like somehow the productivity was lacking.
I know. I should have finished these models earlier.
I'm just wondering, have you been working on some other secret project you haven't told us about?
A little bit.
Are you kink shaming John?
No, I'm just wondering where the rest of his hobby productivity went. Because, strangely enough, it seems like this is about half of his normal productivity. And I'm wondering if he's been working on something that he hasn't told us about yet.
God forbid John doesn't pull his own weight, which is also triple the amount of all the rest of our weight combined. Yeah.
I know. This is why I'm curious. I'm just wondering if he did something else.
Well, okay, so there was
leave him the crap alone. There is always that.
There was a lot of prep for this week episode.
Okay, that's fair.
Like, a lot of prep.
Okay. I look forward to hearing all about this week's episode. Shall we get to it? What's the news, John?
The news.
Let me open.
Oh gosh.
This right here, so it's loading.
Yeah, we got some tabs today, gentlemen. I'm sorry.
It's
not
my
fault. My God.
The fuck, John?
It's GW. Don't blame me.
I blame you.
All right, so we had pre-orders go up for the Maximus Battle Group last week. I thought these were sold out, but they're still in stock for a little while.
Yep.
What's not in stock is Kane.
Aw. Kane sold out.
If you want a Cyphus Kane, you got to go to your GW stores. And also was not in stock is all the Old World stuff. It sold out pretty quick. At least the main Battle March book and the starter set.
Okay.
Next week, no Heresy stuff apart from the physical release of all the stuff we've been waiting for, like the journal. All the starter sets for 40K are starting to drop. So we're getting the starter set with the... I thought this was the pre-painted terrain one, but it doesn't mention that. It's 2 combat patrol armies, battlefield boards, and terrain to fill it out. So I guess this is the pre-painted terrain stuff.
And that's one box on that table?
That is 1 box.
Okay, and they're 40K, and forgive me if I sound stupid, they play on a smaller size table now.
Yeah. I do not know, but I know that this is not a full-size game. This is only combat patrols.
Okay, so that looking that full is not an expectation for a Heresy table if somebody was to buy into this and they're watching the video feed.
Correct. We did kind of get a little bit of a leak this week that the terrain by itself will probably be $340 for a box, the big box.
Okay.
They're also dropping a bunch of the mini boxes, the painting boxes, the getting started sets, some more novels, Ghosts of Calth, a sniper novel called Long Shot, Devastation of Balls getting a re-release. During the week, we got The War at Calth, Black Book pages. So this talks about Calth. It's got Ultramarines, it's got Word Bearers, it's got Solar Ox.
Yep, it's a pretty cool fluff one.
Yep. Coming up soon on Warhammer TV is going to be the Lore Masters Word Bearers Legion. So this will go through their Heresy stuff and talk a little bit about that.
remember, folks, never trust Erebus.
Yep. We don't get a lot of Heresy stuff in Warhammer Plus because it's, their step game. But it's nice to see some things every now and then. I think these dropped on Warhammer merch a while ago, but I think we missed them. And so now they've been picked up by Merchoid. For those that don't know, Merchoid is like a third party that collects everything that other companies make for games, board games, movies, superhero stuff, and then upcharges the hell out of it. So if you missed something and you really, really got to have it, Merchoid will probably have it in stock. But I couldn't find these on the Warhammer merch store anymore. They've got 2 different Legion desk mats. These are basically mouse pads that are longer. One they've got is Traitor Legions. And the other one is the Loyalists. You get a kind of half-view Marine and their symbol above, and then the Legion number below.
Okay. For $37. That's okay.
For $37. Joy Toy dropped what can only be described as a metric ton of stuff. So we've got Salamanders and Night Lords. Night Lords, we've got the Canticar Terminator with a big Volkite thing. Another one with a big Volkite thing. Or no, this is a Heavy Flamer thing. We've got the Legion Praetor with Jump Pack. We've got a Legion Praetor in Tartaros Terminator armor with wrist-mounted Volkite. Canticar Terminator with Chain Blade and Heavy Flamer. Mark 3 Tactical Legionary. Mark 6 Tactical Legionary with Bolt Pistol and Plasma Pistol, Bolter, Bolt Pistol, and Power Sword. Sevatar. Probably the only one that's kind of cool in this whole thing. Salamander's got a Fire Drake. 2 different styles with Thunderhammer and Dragon Scale Shield. Mark 3 Tactical Legionary.
With Fist.
With Fist. This is supposed to be a Sergeant, but they didn't put the word Sergeant on there, and they didn't give him a Sergeant's crest, so he's just a Legionary with a Fist. And the other guy's a Sergeant with this cool little Salamander helmet. I like how they're starting to put the Forge World upgrades on these models. They're not just painting them anymore. We saw that with the Night Lords as well. And we're also getting sculpted shoulder pads now instead of just a painted design. That is all the Joy Toys. So I'm waiting for Jack's response on Starforged. Are you ready, Jack?
No. What the fuck?
The Starforged 40k Imperial Fists of Dorn keychain. How much is that, Jack?
That's a fucking $100.
Well, you're wrong. Because it's free! If you use the code DORN, D-O-R-N, and you spend $50, you get this free keychain free.
Yay! A free keychain if I spend more money buying something else.
And you notice anything wrong with their ad here?
The discount code?
Free dark.
No. It says order value must be $50 to get a free Dark Angels Artificer Chapter Armorial keychain.
Oh, I thought it was the discount code.
Oh, yeah, that too. Yeah. For those that don't know, Starforged is Chinese, and they don't English very well most of the time.
Oh, my God.
So, yes, if you spend $50, you can get a free Dorn keychain. Maybe it's Dark Angels, but I'm betting it's the Dorn keychain.
Okay.
Had some cool Kickstarters going on. The Nameless Abyss. If you're doing demons and you like Lovecraft, this one is for you.
What the fuck? Is that an elephant?
I'm sure it's some weird Lovecraftian monster.
Huh.
Well, that was a head crab.
Huh.
That's like a big head crab.
I don't even...
It's 15 pounds for all the models. They're 75 millimeter scale, so that means they're pretty big, so you can shrink them down if you want, or blow them up and make them greater demons.
Yeah. No, that...
Or if you need practice painting flesh. Like...
Yes, lots of flesh.
So much flesh.
Yeah.
That was the Nameless Abyss Cosmic Horror 75mm STL files. Next, Jack, we missed the Zorp thing as it was a little expensive. This is Art, Ancient Ruin Temple Modular Terrain System. So for $21, you get a modular Roman Colosseum.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of neat. I actually kind of like that.
Yeah, it's mainly just the ground tiles and the little Roman style architecture. It's not a ton of extra cool stuff, but it's cheap. $20, $21.
Mm-hmm.
I could dig that.
Grimdark Empire. This is the Victoria Miniatures Kickstarter for her Not Mortians.
Yes.
It is
I've been watching this, and there's a lot of stuff in here.
Yeah, I was about to say it's a little pricey at $69 US, but you get a ton of stuff. You get male and female body types. You get Praetorian and Mortian, which there is a big difference on the body types because you've got the different shoulder tassels versus sashes. Again, in male and female. You get line weapons. You get heavy weapons. You get characters.
Nice.
Very cool set.
Yeah, as someone who's gotten some of her stuff before in metal, her stuff is quality sculpts. It's size 2 GW. It's good stuff. It really is.
I used a majority of her legs on that Cobra.
So seeing this stuff makes me really happy.
In honor of the 4th of July, Warlord Games released their new Soldier of Fortune miniature. George Washington.
Okay.
Ah. Neat.
A new mat company has started called Cigar Box Battle. They're making 4x6 mats. They've got a blue energy pulsey one that would probably be good for BFG, medieval streets, beaches, and title area.
Oh. Okay.
Okay.
Zorpazorp has started a new Kickstarter as well for their Gothica.
How much is this?
Again,
one?
just $58 for intact buildings, $58 for ruined buildings, or $86 for all the buildings.
These are really nice looking.
Yeah, I've been watching the videos on and off, and it's quite impressive what they put together. If I had a appropriate printer in the space, what do you say, $86 for both of them?
Yep.
That's not bad for the amount of stuff you can do with it. I know that seems pricey.
There's a lot of files here. So like those, the Roman ones we talked about before was just boards and one building. This is a ton of buildings, a ton of types of buildings. So you've got gun emplacements, you've got statues, you've got altars.
The ability to mix and match so you can make your own buildings.
Yeah, and they're all kind of styled off the newer style GW, like with hexagon edges. They'd work well with that. There's roads and connectors.
I like this. This definitely is cool looking.
You can add on, as part of the Kickstarter, his files for his militia / Solar Ox. You can also add on the Rome stuff and their previous Mars.
How much is it to add on the Rome stuff?
I do not know.
Huh. I may have to look at that.
I want to know. One more, Asteroid Mining Base OSX 13, 3D printable sci-fi terrain. So if you're doing sci-fi mining tables, this would be kind of a cool one for you. I know John Stanford had an old sci-fi asteroid table. This is kind of up the same alley. It's got both interior as well as exterior stuff. You can go all in for only $47 US.
Kind of neat.
So you get space worm, you get mining equipment, you get interior stuff, you get exterior stuff, mini bases, a tube, maglev systems, whole bunch of stuff.
You're my tube.
GT Combat, since they're about to release a new version of Drop Zone and Drop Fleet Commander, have come out with space, whatever the fuck this thing is.
That's the best description I've ever heard, John.
Let's back up for a second. Are you saying a new edition of Drop Fleet Commander?
They're doing a lot of like reboxing and stuff for Drop Fleet. Drop Zone is doing a new edition and talking about discontinuing some stuff.
Okay.
I don't even know what this thing is, or is trying to be, but
It's a space octopus.
But it's got like, there's part elephant, kind of, maybe, things, tentacles.
It's like a Zergling mixed with an octopus in a truly ugly way. Anyway, yeah.
Finally, kind of leads into our hobby discussion a little bit. There was a company way back when called Wave Models, and in the early 2000s, they stopped shop. And I did a little bit of a panic buying and bought a bunch of their stuff. They make a bunch of add-on bits mainly for Gundam models, but it's also kind of handy to add on parts for your scratch builds or for, in one instance, they make these little eyes, which are really good for scanners and things like that. So you don't have to paint them yourself. You can just glue this little thing down and it works as a reflective sensor. In fact, I'll be using one of these actually on my Mastodon that I'm working on. But they disappeared off the face of the earth, never to be seen again, except randomly this week they showed back up, and they're going to start making all their old stuff again. So they've got different accessory pieces. They've got drop tanks of all sizes, rivets, including hex bolts and different parts, O-bolts. They've got springs. So if you're scratch building or you just want to add a little bit of extra cool pieces to your models, definitely keep an eye out for them. I've got the New Type USA website pulled up right now, and they've got all their stuff on right now. Some of it's already sold out. So some cool stuff to add on to your parts, including plastic card of all weird shapes and sizes. So I know we used to get rods and things like that. These guys have plastic card hexagons and triangles and quarter rounds. Mold plate, which is kind of cool for rolling your green stuff on to make different textures, or you can just cut the plate up itself because it's kind of thin plastic, just to add variation to parts. But that, gentlemen, is all the news.
Cool.
I was going to leave my screen up to lead into our main discussion topic tonight.
Okay. Now that's a fist, $100 or free. Dark Angels, whatever.
So we were going to discuss hobby episode. And to do that, I cleaned up my rooms so I could get better pictures of stuff. So if you're watching us tonight, you'll get a little bit extra, but if you're not, I'll talk through it all. One of the things I think most people don't do is cheat and steal from other hobby areas. I brought up Wave because you can easily buy Gundam accessories and things like that to add on to your stuff. A couple weeks ago on Wednesday night, Joel Ivy was complaining about having to build the annoying mechadendrites for his Voltarax, and I was like, well, just buy one of these little Gundam parts and you don't have to build it. It looks exactly the same. And so stealing from other hobbies is great and easy ways to make your life easier. So I have pictured here all the different books that I've purchased from different companies to steal ideas from. So on the right side, we've got all the different armor books that I've got, how to paint war games terrain, costume making, because there's some cool stuff you can kind of pull from that as well. Going into Gundam models, as well as Making Terrain from Mel Bose, which is the terrain tutor on YouTube. He's a good follow if you haven't done it. Dave Taylor's Armies, Legions, and Hordes book, which is kind of a army planning book. And then the good old-fashioned Imperial Armor Masterclass Volumes 1 and 2, which sadly Forge World doesn't make anymore because they kind of talked about how not to use GW products.
Those are two really good books.
They are.
Yep. If you scour the internets, maybe upon the mighty seas, you might find copies of them. The other thing I do is I always keep every handout that I get from every class. The stupidest thing my brain ever tells me is I'm going to remember that. I cannot count the number of times when I was a kid that I bought a Transformer, read the instructions once, and said, yep, I get it, and throw the instructions away. And then 2 weeks later, I didn't know how to transform the guy again.
That makes sense.
So I always keep every handout that I get, or sometimes with paint companies, they'll have little free handouts that show you quick, easy tips or how to use said product, things like that. Pick those up, put them in a corner in your room, and you'll occasionally look back at it. GW used to make paint books. They've went down in quality until they just killed it entirely with the last Heresy How to Paint book, which was 3 steps. In fact, I think the PDF we got was probably better than the actual How to Paint Heresy book that came out. Again, stealing from other people. There's a lot of inspiration on Instagram and things like that, but there's also a lot of different books you can buy on building dioramas. A lot of them that I own are not in English, but I do have Google Lens, and that gets the point across pretty well. So I've got a bunch of different Gundam weapons and diorama books that come in different languages, as well as The Art of by Dave Taylor, who's gone through and done with a bunch of different authors. You can find those online as well. We all have different ways of storing paint. I know Brian and Jack kind of went into the paint rack method on their desks. My desk is also my work desk for actual job reasons, and so it kind of elevates. So it's a sit and stand desk, so I can stand sometimes if I get bored at work. I bought these wall mountable nail polish holders, and they work really well for dropper bottles as well as monument paints. The kind of bigger dropper bottles that you get from Green Stuff World and things like that usually have to go in the top rack, but otherwise they work really well for organizing all your paints. I have 4 of them.
That's it?
I'm not done. Because it allows you to organize your dropper bottles in different areas. So I have the metals and washes on one wall, and then a lot of the flesh colors and things like that I hit the most. For non-dropper bottle paints, I have a drawer system my wife bought forever ago from Hobby Lobby, and I've kind of broken it down and labeled it. So I've got oils in one drawer, contrast GW paints in one drawer, Tamiya and GW Air in another, metallics and P3 in another, weathering powders, effects paints, inks, and then the bottom ones are basing materials, putty rollers, kind of everything that you need to work on paint-wise, just in one area. And then finally a fridge at the bottom where I keep kind of long-term paint storage that I don't touch a lot. So if I buy 6 bottles of Ultramarines Blue, because I know I'm going to be painting more Ultramarines later, bottles 4, 5, and 6 go in the fridge. This is why Jack used to make fun of me. I organize my bits like a crazy person. I break them down into types of bits. So I've got left-handed close combat weapons, left-handed swords, left-handed hammers, left-handed power fists, and then right-handed as well as all those. You don't have to do this. This is how I do it. Most people don't do it this way.
May I interrupt?
Go ahead.
Jack still makes fun of you for this.
Yeah, he does. That's fair. He does.
I was going to keep my mouth shut.
Thank you, Jack. The problem I found was that a lot of the Heresy parts don't break down as nicely, so I had to organize those a little bit more into little Plano boxes. So I've got different Plano boxes for different marks of armor and different shoulder pad types. So I've got 2 different ones for shoulder pads, the blank shoulder pads, which are organized by mark, and then the kind of design shoulder pads that are organized by mark as well. Different heads in different drawers. Left arms, right arms, arm pairs all get their own drawers.
I'm surprised you didn't actually organize the ones that are for the very specific. You have to have this part to go here. So left arm, left shoulder pad for left arm, things like that.
I do not like a lot of the new models, and I haven't built a lot of them.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
And when I do build them, I just build them and then they're done. And I don't usually, there's not a lot of leftover bits on a lot of those.
That's fair.
You can see here is also a collection of some of the barrels and things that I've been kind of keeping together for other planned conversions or checking the scale of, and then the ammo chains and things like that I use on my Mechanicum. The other thing I use a lot of is brushes. So whenever I go to Hobby Lobby, they've got those little $6 brush packs. I buy a bunch of those and then kind of throw them in a corner whenever I need them. They go through one project, then they get demoted to paint or to glue brushes or dry brushes, and then they get demoted to glue brushes. So I've got multiple cups with each stage of brush kind of hanging around until it's just trash. I have a little rolly dolly where I keep my basing stuff on the bottom. So this is, when I talk about all the weird shit I put on bases, this is where I keep most of it, as well as 2 boxes of different dead bodies and accessories that I put on terrain and things.
Model dead bodies, right?
Model dead bodies, yes,
My
Jack.
God, I hope so.
And body bags.
Sometimes it pays to be specific.
You'll also see some oddball odds and ends in this picture, mainly because they're cool shapes. So you can see here there's little sandbags that Green Stuff World made, as well as Lionel train logs that I thought would be cool for a terrain project or something. Whenever you go to Hobby Lobby, take a stroll down their necklace and bracelet making aisle. Sometimes they've got cool little designs in there. I found these little mashed pieces of stained glass in one of those. They have these little, I bought my UV resin at Hobby Lobby because it's a lot cheaper, and then Jamie gave me the cure, but they use those to make bracelets, and then to emphasize the bracelets, they have these little pieces of smashed stained glass, which would be really cool for fighting in a broken out city or things like that. So I've got a little tub of those that I bought. This is my airbrush bucket. It's on little rolly wheels as well. I've got pipettes, and we'll go through some of these things in a little bit. I've got our Amazon cart pulled up so I can show what's in that. This Japanese company makes strainers that fit in the top of your airbrush so you don't get clogged airbrush. Micromark also makes funnels with the little strainers in the bottom of them that I use a lot of. A ton of nitrile disposable gloves because sometimes I don't like cleaning my hands afterwards. A humidity checker to make sure that I'm not going to get a bunch of dry tip in the area. Different types of pipe cleaners and pipe cleaners and actual smoking pipe cleaners to clean the airbrush, as well as the little tiny makeup applicators that we have in our cart for cleaning the airbrush. And the top of this here seals, and so that's where I put all my spare airbrush parts. So if I've got extra needles and nozzles and things like that I don't want rolling around, I throw those all in there and close it up on top. This is the wall directly behind me as we record. I put just an IKEA Kallax and divided it up. So I've got different tubs for different things. I've got one for paint thinners and gloss and matte. I've got this little 9 divider for saws. Do what?
Tic-tac-toe.
Yep, the tic-tac-toe board is for saws, scribers, sculpting tools, drill bits, sanders, different types of sanders, even different types of sanders, sanding boards, and then stretchy sanders. And then acrylic thinner. For those that don't know, the X20A thinner is also the same thing as their Tamiya's super thin cement. So you can buy that in bulk using the X20A thinner instead of buying the glue, and it saves you a lot of money. I just bought one of these little nozzles that's extra off of a monument piece, I think, and you can just put that on top of the Tamiya, and it works to just pour that out a little easier so you don't end up dumping it all over yourself.
I like dumping it on myself.
You would.
At $7 a bottle, I try to spill as little as possible.
Look how much it costs for a freaking model anymore. $7 is cheap.
Yes, but I like to make my bucks go as far as possible, so I buy stuff in bulk where I can, like super glues, again, different types of putties. This right here is something I thought I would use on the Mastodon, but I ended up using that wave thing instead. These are all reflective stickers that come from a Gundam site. Then this is a tub of magnets. I buy those in bulk. Down here we've got a bunch of different wires and chains and things that I use to add onto models. Here's those wave parts in the back there, and then some organizers for when I'm working on small projects, like dividing up decals and things like that. Below that is where I keep the models that I'm currently working on. So these are all the marine armor that I've gotten decaled and sponged and waiting for spot colors and things for when I've got some free time. And the spray booth. So this is the waterback spray booth. Y'all all thought I was crazy for buying when I bought it.
Still do.
And then nearly
hey,
electrocuted myself when I overfilled it. I've got a Vortex paint mixer up here, a little fan that blows directly on me because sometimes when you're sitting here for hours, it gets a little hot. H&S brushes in a brush holder. A few Dremels. Yes, 6. Because I knew Jack would ask.
Out of curiosity.
Oh,
Yep.
I have
curiously.
another question after this. Go ahead. Go. I can go.
Do you have a first aid kit nearby?
Oh, that wasn't
Yes.
the question. That wasn't the question. John, buddy, pal, friend, did you have to have an electrician come out to run extra power to this room for all the stuff you have?
No.
Should you have had an electrician come out to run extra power for all the stuff?
No.
Okay.
Very few of the stuff is all on at the same time.
Okay.
So we've got the tattoo bottles for different things. So when I'm airbrushing, I usually use just one just for water with our sticker on it, so I know that that's the water bucket. I've got one with my 10-to-1 water alcohol mix for thinning paints. I've got one that's straight alcohol. And then one that I can open the top of, and there's a little plunger on the top here. If you push that, it brings alcohol up to the top, so you can use Q-tips to clean your airbrush. Some magnetized parts holders that I found online. So if you're working on your airbrush, you don't want your little nozzle and things rolling away, you can set them in this and they won't roll off. Bunches of Q-tips, the different makeup appliers. I just bought these type of makeup appliers. They're pretty small. And I've gotten our Amazon cart to pull up in just a little bit. I found these little welding cleaners. They're really fine, and they can get really bad clogs out of your airbrush pretty easily after a little bit of soaking. This is my work desk where I'm recording right now. So you can see here my nipper stand, my little movable light and recording apparatus. I can push my keyboard underneath this big shelf here so I can work a little better. I've got some of the paints that I've been using as during the week here. Ignore the cat, that's for cleaning my work monitor. Because the Apple put their camera right where my fat thumb goes, so I have to constantly clean that off. And then again, here's the brush staging for moving on for pieces. Here is something I talked about a long time ago. This is I guess you could call it for sanding. It picks up all the different sanding dust, and that way you don't have to breathe it in. It's worked really well with the Dremel tool, and I found that I don't have to wear a mask nearly as often as I used to have to. This is Duncan's worst nightmare in my house. This is all the different knife blades that I keep together. At the Container Store, I found this little magnetic tray, and I've got about 1,000 X-Acto blades in there, so whenever I need X-Acto blades, if they start going dull, the second they start going dull, I swap it out immediately.
This might be weird, but I never use a fresh, new, sharp X-Acto blade. I always use a dull one, and I don't cut my fingers off nearly as much as John.
I'm going to go ahead and remind all our listeners and viewers out there that John is actually part salamander, because he has, at this point in his hobby career, severed every single fingertip, limb, multiple times, and they just somehow keep growing back.
I changed my hobby blade for the first time in probably 7 years.
When you're working and your knife starts getting dull, you push harder. When you push harder, you're going to accidentally cut yourself. That's what I have found. So when I don't change the blades, I cut myself more.
How?
I used to cut myself a lot more. Let's put it that way, Jack.
How do you... More?
Yep.
I don't believe that, but carry on.
John, you have hobby stigmata. I mean, you bleed when you hobby. That's how this works.
How do you not have a corn army? That's the question I have.
Yeah, that's a very good question.
You know how there's that saying, like, lengthwise for results, crossways for attention, and then you have John ways, which is at a diagonal.
Yes. Oh, my Lord.
This is my backup spray booth. When I'm doing larger projects like terrain and things like that, I found that the water-backed one is kind of nice for 90% of projects, but 10% of the time I need something bigger. And so I've just taken 2 of those basic spray booths and combined them. I found the new ones have lights built into them, but they don't seem to hold up well in the middle. So I've kind of built a holder up there with some clamps and some rulers. I've got all this on a power strip, and then there's a USB plug up here. You can see I keep a phone and headphone charger nearby on all my stations, so that way I can either play music or plug in the headphones when I'm got the fans going and things like that. And then again, a fan and air purifier nearby, so I can keep breathing.
Okay.
And that is all of my hobby spaces.
Fantastic,
Okay.
John.
In those hobby spaces and in our Amazon cart, I have a bunch of tools. So some of those tools are things like this diamond drill bit set. We've tried to keep it so that everything in our Amazon cart is the cheapest. Things that you can buy for what they are. I found that these diamond ones work really well for cutting up resin. They make really quick work out of anything that we're going to be working on. I've talked about it before, and Jack bought one as well, the reciprocating sander from Despay. This thing works really well for sanding objects. You get about 20 minutes worth of work on it. It charges on USB-C. You don't need a funky charger for this thing like you do for their drill. And one of the best things about it is the pre-cut sanding paper pieces that go from 180 to 1200 grit. Usually what you're going to be using is probably in the 400 range, or the 180 range if you're taking off big pieces. And you can get those separately, which saves a lot of time cutting and gluing all the pieces of sandpaper together. Speaking of the Despay drill that I got a couple weeks ago, I posted it on our Instagram and Facebook. For the money, I don't think it's terrible. I've got the Tamiya one coming up in just a minute. But if you don't want to build the Tamiya one, if you just want an automatic drill that will not melt GW plastic, which has a very low melting point. I remember drills that go fast could generate heat melt plastic, plastic melted bad. I do recommend you buy a bunch of collets with this, which we also have in our Amazon shopping list.
Speaking of,
Yep, those are the collets for it. It takes any normal Dremel collet, so the inner collet in this image is brass, and that goes inside of that. This also works for Dremel tools as well, so if you've got Dremel tools, you can use the big black collet up there to get precision drilling going, which is really handy for pinning and things like that. These are the dental things that I was talking about a little earlier. These are absorbent paper points. They are super fine, and I had a really bad clog on my airbrush the other day that I couldn't get clean, and so I just soaked the nozzle in alcohol overnight, whipped out one of these little number 40s, and was able to get it clean in just a couple passes. These are one use, and then you toss them, but for the money, it looks a little expensive, but you do get a lot of them. I don't see me ever having to buy this again. Another thing I go through a lot of while I'm painting is pipettes. So if you're transferring out of a non-dropper bottle into a dropper bottle or into a mixing cup, it's great to have a bunch of extra pipettes around. This is something I just started using. So with that noosh, you do have to kind of take it off. And when you're working on models, they've got a bunch of weird, funky locations that you need to get into to wipe down. I found that these little disposable eyeshadow applicators are really well for... you just get it slightly damp and then wipe it off.
It also works really well with oil paints.
Oil paints and Tamiya weathering sticks and things like that, yeah.
They do work wonderfully with oil paints. I've been using those for a bit now.
Yep. Under both of my airbrush booths is a momentary switch, and this is tied to a hairdryer. So if you're painting models and you do not want to wait for it to dry, you step on the switch turns on the hairdryer dries the model. It's just a way to speed up your painting if you want to be able to do a lot of stuff really quickly. To hold said hairdryer, I usually use a kind of a magic arm clamp. This is just a simple clamp that can hold pretty much whatever you want to put into it. It's got a table mount on it, so you can just clamp it onto your table. And then almost the same thing for a phone holder. This is just the one that I picked up before, and it's in our cart. I find it works really well, and it folds up really small, so it's not in your way while you're working. I've talked about them a lot, and I still keep singing the praises of the watercolor brush pens. You can put wash in these. You can put microset and microsol in these. Anything that is liquid you want to put in a fine spot without having to dip a brush into it, this works great for. It's not so great for actually paint, but anything that's super thin that you can put in these and apply where you need it.
I found you can also use them with thinner, although it'll pretty much kill the tip. But you can sit there and use that to draw streaks down when you have very, very fine point places where you want to do that with oil paints as well.
Yeah, these are nylons, so certain thinners will eat it, but as long as you know that, they're kind of disposable. And, you don't have to get these at Amazon. I saw Dollar Tree started carrying these, 2 of them for $1. I bought a bunch of them as prize support for our local games. So you can go to Hobby Lobby as well and find a bunch of them there. I talked about the Tamiya drill, and this is it. This is it is a model kit that you have to build a drill yourself. Comes with different parts inside. It does not accept normal collets, and it comes with just one extra collet, so it holds regular size drill bits. It doesn't hold really tiny drill bits or very large drill bits, but if you want to have a quick and easy drill for the price, it's $30. The other one was $55. It's kind of up to you on how much customizability you want in your drills.
I just find that funny that you have to build your own drill from Tamiya. It just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, it was like maybe 20 minutes worth of work. It's a little fiddly with having to set all the different connectors and battery holders in place. Luckily, there's no wiring or anything like that.
Thank God.
Yeah. When you're working on your desk, you're going to make a lot of mess. There's going to be dust. There's going to be sanding stuff. I've found that this Desk Bay portable handheld vacuum also charges with USB-C. is really handy to kind of clean up what you've been working on. If you've got a bunch of nubs you've nipped off of stuff, picks up pretty good sized stuff. It's fairly small, which is also kind of a helper in that if you pick up a part that you didn't mean to vacuum, you open it up because you can see through it. And nothing that you're vacuuming up gets past this first little filter. And so it's just in that area there. What's really handy about desk-based stuff, as well as the on-desk air sucker that I have, is all of their filters are cheap and easy to order. And because it's just one company, you don't have to worry about getting them from different companies and things. Last one. This one's one that I've used a lot. The 3-speed cordless mini drill pin. So the drill itself that I talked about earlier, you can lock and then use it manually. This is almost like a slower Dremel that charges with USB-C. It does not have replaceable collets, but it does take all the different Dremel-sized heads. So if you want to grind or larger drill, or Duncan's favorite, turn it into a freaking saw, it's up to you. You can put all the different Dremel attachments inside this thing. And it doesn't get as fast as a Dremel, so you're not going to make a big a mess or accidentally mess something up.
Why would you think I would put a saw on there?
Yeah, I figured he would turn it into a hammer.
Yeah, I mean, not that I wouldn't use a saw blade on it to clear off old resin model gating, but...
Yep.
Okay, I would. You're right. Never mind.
Yep. What's really handy is the little hex wrench that's needed to open up the collet stores in the base. So you'll never lose it.
That's nice.
And those are the tools that I have discovered.
Since our last time?
Since our last one, yeah. It's been a year of tooling.
Okay.
So this plate, however you pronounce it, also makes a set of like miniature sanding blocks you can do that adhere to the back of the sanding block. They're color coded per grit size. I bought that. Yep. I've gotten a lot of mileage out of those versus burning through a crap ton worth of emery boards for nails. I do use emery boards. Those are always good. Big fan of emery boards. You can buy.
I find emery boards are like good for taking off giant chunks of stuff, and then the Despe sanders, which I think I did a good for fine stuff. Yeah. I think I did a post on our Facebook and Instagram about those.
Yep. I have a metal hobby desk, so I have a lot of stuff with magnets. No jokes, Duncan. But just be able to stick stuff to magnets as I go along. Don't be afraid to look at other businesses, kind of like John was talking about. I have bought a lot of random hobby stuff from Harbor Freight. They had airbrush cleaners through there. That's where I buy my big roll of shop towels for my hobby station. Gloves. Yeah, the gloves and more gloves and all the other gloves in the history of mankind. That's really good. The craft
Hobby
stores,
Lobby has
Hobby
started.
Lobby, yep. So go ahead.
Yeah, they've started making their own weathering kits, like the Tamiya weathering kits, as well as the alligator clips for keeping your separate pieces when you're spraying them and things like that. So, yeah, start looking around at different shops that maybe you don't normally go to or don't like going to.
Yep. I have the desk-mounted nail holders. They fit everything except for the Tamiya paints, and they do not fit the Pearl Krill pigments. That kind of made me sad. But they fit everything else that I have. See here, what else? I buy a lot of stuff from the nail art industry, like the really super fine tip brushes. It's in front of my head. Like the tip on this thing is this.
Their stencils are really good too if you want to do flames or some other stuff.
As I try to put the cover back on here and not ruin it.
Good luck.
I hate getting old. If you know your glasses, buy some hobby glasses for your table. That way you're not ruining your regular glasses. That's something that I learned. Gotta love getting old. Jesus Christ. See here. Well, what else is there? I'm a huge fan of, if you have the room, try to keep your computer desk and your hobby desk 2 separate desks. Because switching back and forth between the 2 of them is a freaking nightmare. I'm sure Duncan can speak to that.
This is all one big hobby desk that is also my computer desk that is also my everything else desk. Yeah. It's a nightmare. Mm-hmm. I agree. Yep. But it is what it is.
Yep. Lights. I've bought a couple of different LED shop lights that I have hung over my hobby desk to provide better overall light for the area. Especially helps for when you're maybe filming stuff on your desk. And just general, you're assembling, stuff, so you just have good overall light. I have picked up a couple of new plastic cements that I've been playing around with, since a large part of the Heresy is now plastic. They have, Mr. Hobby has a good cement. AK Interactive has a red cement. That way you can sit there and see the seams, and you can kind of tell, once you only have that little bit, the real thin red line, the seam is fairly well filled. I turned one of my Tamiya cements into sprue glue, which you do that by just dropping pieces of sprue into the bottle, and then you can fill holes for plastic kits. Huge fan of that. Yeah. Just look around, and try to keep your stuff as best organized as you can. You don't have to do John way. I have my own kit that I have everything broken down into Mark 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 into a separate container, so I can pull out one tray and there's all my Mark 6 bits. Go ahead and make fun of me, Duncan.
Nope, I'm not. I'm not even gonna try.
One thing John clued me onto, and I think I bought Duncan one of these, is an A4 plastic container for decals.
Yes.
That you got from
Daiso.
Yeah, that's freaking fantastic. 10 out of 10 would recommend.
Daiso is another store. If you do not have a nearby Daiso, there's some places you can order their stuff online. But yeah, they have a ton of stuff. It's like a Japanese dollar store, except for some reason they carry a crap ton of terrain stuff. Like a crap ton. They've got custom Gundam hangers. They've got some Japanese collectibles and food and things like that. But yeah, they've got, since it's European paper sizes, you can buy a bunch of different organizers for different papers and things. You can organize your decals that way. I went with long boxes for comics, and then I bought magazine backer boards and bags, and then inside of those I put card sleeves from Ultra Pro for the binder sleeves, and threw those in there, and that way I can when I cut down the decal sheets, I can organize the trimmings into different sleeves of that, and then I write on the backer board what each trimming is and things like that. And that way it also keeps them straight.
So I've got something that I think can actually be very helpful. I know a lot of people already use one of these, but it's something I think John may find very useful just as a person doing hobby stuff.
Oh God, I'm scared.
No, this is 100%. This is a 100% legitimate thing. This is a cutting mat. This one I got from Adepticon. So the way this works is you put things on top of it, and then you cut down onto it.
Oh my God.
So that when you do that, you don't cut yourself. It prevents you from holding little bitty things in your hand, like say, I don't know, some little bitty hands like I have here in my hand right now, and then taking my giant hobby knife, which is actually just a box cutter with a blade I changed out 1.5 years ago. That stops me from cutting at myself and severing the tip of my finger. Instead, I can cut onto this cutting board. It's self-healing, so even if I cut it, it's still good to be used again. Kind of like John uses his fingers, but
I will say, I did buy a bunch of contractor hobby knives. They're square based, so that way they don't roll. I have cut myself with rolling and falling X-Acto knives in the past. And then in the base of them, it can hold, I think it's 5 or 10, depending on how much you want to cram in there, extra X-Acto knives. It's
You heard
not
it here
a
first,
four
folks.
jaw chuck.
John is getting into square basing.
It's not a 4-jaw chuck, so you can't use it as a drill, but it does have a guard on the back of it. So if you've got some of the odder X-Acto blades, they may not fit. And the oversized X-Acto blades that you can find out there, like the scraper and things like that, those don't fit in it too well. But the old-fashioned number 11 and number 2 that most people use, those fit in there very well.
I'm going to be absolutely honest. I have not been using much extra tool-wise beyond what I've already been using because most of it seems to have already fit my uses. I will say that I have started using a lot more sanding boards, various emery boards, or things wrapped around pieces, small shanks of metal. Like I'm using 10,000 and 15,000 and 20,000 grit polishing sand or sanding boards or sandpaper basically to clean up paint where it, like on metals blending colors there. That has been good. I get those off Amazon, but they're ridiculously fine grit. They're almost microscopic, but they're really good for just cleaning up and helping stuff paint wise where it, like, it's gone too far in one direction and you don't feel like touching it up with another paint going the other direction and creating a possible issue. Because this takes it off almost at the layer of paint. They're not jewelry; they're for like glass. So these are very, very fine grit. That is something I recommend.
I'm a firm believer in the 2-ounce souffle cups, like kind of like you get the to-go sauces at restaurants. Get those with lids, so if you're like mix up like an oil wash one night, you can throw it on and it will still be good the next night. It's not going to stay good for indefinitely.
Notice what Jack said. Jack said souffle cups. Jack did not say Jello shot cups. If you go on Amazon and search for Jello shot cups, you'll find souffle cups with a 90% markup.
Okay.
So this is something I actually have used, and right now I'm using it for. What bits do I have in here? Yeah, just some of the bits. Anyway, you go to an event. I'm going to turn off my background here so that people can see it. You, like, a lot of times you go to an event at a sporting event and you'll come away with getting a drink and you'll have a cup that has a lid to it. I save these. And I use these for a lot of things where I require a disposable cup, like for when I've been cleaning stuff that have had oil on and the paint is still good, or the brush itself is still good, and I've been using oil paints with it and I want to try to keep it. I don't use or try to clean that brush in my regular oil or my regular water cup, because that water, the residue of that's going to end up in the water cup. Your water is going to end up funky. You'll put your regular brush in there and now it's contaminated with oil, and you're going to ruin that brush and you're going to ruin the paints that you put in there. If you try to put it from water cleaned off, dried off into a different paint, it can get the oil into that paint and make problems. So I actually use these throwaway top lid cups that I get from events when I go to them, and I use them for all kinds of things, but I use them for that very heavily.
I also recommend, if you're going to have cups, make sure you have, if you're doing acrylic paint, have one for metals and one for not metals.
Yep.
Because metal flakes is what usually makes the metal paint shiny, are usually lighter than water and will float on top. So every time you dip your paint brush in there to clean it, as you're removing it, you'll pick up metal flakes, and then your nice matte color will have random little splotches in it.
Yep. One thing I also use, I don't use a paint cup like a ceramic paint cup or a metal paint cup. I use a small Tupperware container. This one here is my current one that I've been using for a bit. It's literally good for, I use this one for basing. Anything that requires nicer paints or different paints or nicer brushes that I'm using, I literally use one of these until it gets trashed enough to where it's useless and I throw it away. But that's what I use when I'm I'm like doing underlayers and requiring touch up on that, or grime, things to that effect. But cheap cups work wonderfully rather than using and ruining potentially a nice ceramic cup or a nice, like, $50 whatever metal cup that you get from, say, Hobbies or Monument Hobbies or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got two old gravity feed airbrush, or not gravity, siphon feed airbrush um, jars, the oversized ones, and I put two of the little sucker brush cleaners in the bottom of them. I've got one for metals and one for plastic, or one for not metals, and so that way I can always keep them clean. And then those little brush cleaner things are just a bunch of little ribs on the bottom. That way you can knock even the most persistent paint out of the brushes. I forget who made them. It was some Kickstarter. Michigan Toy Soldier still carries them. I think they're like $5 at Adepticon one year.
Scribe
Another
pens
thing I
are.
do,
Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say, I don't know what your floor is, John, but my floor
Lava.
here is tile and concrete.
Vinyl wood.
So okay, yeah, same basic concept. It's not carpeted, so it's not. It's conducive to things going bounce. So what I do, because small little bits are going to fly off, or little bitty nubbins off of sprues. When you cut those sprues, they're going to fly and they're going to bounce, land on the floor, and they're going to do whatever. And I use this for not just my hobby, but also general come down here and do whatever room. My daughter uses it for part of her workstation over there. And I honestly walk around in my basement in my bare feet. I don't wear slippers. I don't wear socks. I don't wear my shoes when I'm down here. I'm only wandering around here barefoot. And there's nothing that annoys the living shit out of me more than stepping on a random piece of sharp plastic and stabbing myself in the bottom of my foot. So I keep a shop vac down here. And after I get done with a hobby session where I've been using clippers or something and stuff gets cut and flies to wherever, I just take it and I do a really quick sweep because it's quick, it's easy, and it picks up damn near everything that could be on the floor that will be there to stab you in the foot. Because unlike John, and I don't want to make fun of it again, there's no reason to hurt yourself while you're hobbying.
I haven't hurt myself hobbying this whole week.
You sure?
Another thing for, since we're doing a lot of plastic kits now, and will be sanding and getting them the fit perfect. If you need to reinforce the panel lines, the tungsten like scribe pins that you can use to help reinforce panel lines, that is also nice. This is big in the model car community. I don't have it because I don't have the room for it, but they use food dehydrators to help cure their paints. So they'll paint a shell of a car and they'll throw it in the dehydrator, and it helps keeps the dust to a minimum, and takes the cure time for base coats and that sort of stuff from having to do overnight to being done in like 20-30 minutes.
Yeah, that's why I use the hair dryer. The model cars and Gundams and things like that usually use dehydrators because they're using enamel paints, and those take forever to cure. But with acrylics, even with an airbrush layer, it'll usually dry in 5 to 10 minutes, but 30 seconds with a hair dryer will usually cure it. They're also going for like mirror sheen and things like that, so they're self-leveling paints.
Yep.
You have to hand mix.
But it's good if you're batch coating a lot of stuff and you want to go ahead and after you get your base coat done, give it plenty of time to degas if you're using a rattle can. So a dehydrator is good for that if you have the room for it.
Yep.
See here. I think that's it for tools because John hit on a lot of it. Lights. Forceps for holding stuff.
Yeah, different size tweezers are really good.
Mm-hmm.
I went over it a little bit in the decal episode with flat tweezers for decals and super spiky tweezers for picking things up. Tons of different companies make different types of tweezers and different nippers and things like that. I did do a crazy nipper review where I went through everything that's available on Amazon and most Gundam stores on our Facebook page and Instagram. I want to say 4 years ago now, but I can say that it's still good because I ended up breaking one of my god hands year before last year, and bought a new one. And it was just as nice as the last one.
From
Don't
Harbor.
ever cut if you're using nippers. Don't ever cut with the tip of it. I had a really nice nipper that I cut with the tip of, and it shot off, hit me in the jaw. And if it would have gone into my eye, it probably would have popped it. So make sure you're using your tools correctly. And Duncan will say, don't use your knives on flesh. Yes, Duncan, I know.
Don't use John's knives on your flesh.
Okay. You can buy a big bag of clamps at Harbor Freight for just holding various stuff in various different ways. Models together, spray painting stuff. Like I've used the clamps for many different things. I'm just looking off to the side to see what else I have over there that is non-standard. I went to Hobby Lobby to the canvas section because they have the metal spatulas for painting with oil on canvas. I bought that for basing, to move basing around so I'm not, mingling brushes as I do it. I think
Yep.
2-pack of that was like $3 or $4. I got my dry brushes from Walmart from the makeup section there for some good cheap dry brushes. A metal ruler on the table, like when you would have like in your school for cutting masking tape and measuring stuff out to make sure stuff is symmetrical. That's never a bad thing to have.
The little mat cutter that you can get from X-Acto or Cricut or whatever. It's just a little flat mat cutter. It's like a little, kind of like the old guillotine paper cutters, but for 1 or 2 sheets at a time. Is really handy for if you're trying to divide a giant decal sheet and you want to be really neat and precise, or if you've got thin plastic card that you're using to scratch build stuff or fill giant gaps on terrain. It also works really well for that.
I'm going to bring this up because this is something that I've had happen to me more times than I can count in the past. Good old-fashioned oil paints. These are primarily a very thin metal tube that's very, very flexible and very, very squishy, that's filled up with whatever. This one, for example, is filled up with raw umber. And as you can see, I've used some of it, but not all of it, and it's still good. One of the big things that I've found can be a problem is these things develop holes as you roll them, fold them, squeeze them in the tubing. And that can be a giant problem, especially if it's still got a lot of or a lot of oil in it or a lot of paint in it.
Are you just chewing on them?
No, I break my
Okay, I would expect
Vallejo
that
putty.
from you, John.
With the Vallejo putty, I only get about halfway through before I've squeezed it too hard and it breaks somewhere, and then the putty shoots out that hole and the hole that it's supposed to go out of, because it's a very fine hole on the end of it.
We also, as we know, I keep my stuff in drawers in chaos. So sometimes other things that I put in there, like, have the similar pointy ends on them where they roll from the bottom, and they can puncture the other thing, or a blade can go in there, or a random piece of pointy plastic or pointy
So
metal.
you're not hurting yourself, you're hurting your tools.
Yeah, I hurt my paint or my tools or my other stuff. I don't hurt myself. I try to keep that from happening.
I'm dying.
This one hasn't had that happen, thankfully. But I keep all of these individually in small plastic bags that we get from Kroger. And I don't mean like regular sandwich bags. These are about the width and size of a dollar bill. So you can individually retain these. That way, if something is leaking, or there's a pinhole, or there's a microscopic leak, or a regular leak that you don't see, that way it doesn't possibly seep out and leak all over the stuff that you have right beside it. And I just switch them out if they get ruined, and that way the paint stays good. You throw away a 10-cent plastic bag, and your paint's still good. It's still sealed, and you don't get it everywhere.
I will say on oil paints, try to buy a decent quality one. The cheaper ones sometimes are made of substandard materials. So Duncan mentioned raw umber or burnt umber. I had one that I bought on a clearance rack at Hobby Lobby, and I was weathering an ultramarine, and all of my paint kept moving towards the magnets. And it turns out that because it was such a cheap quality paint, they'd achieved the coloring by throwing in a bunch of extra iron filings into the paint to get that nice brown ruddy coloring.
Yep, I could see that. I think another thing that needs to be said specifically is paint. There.
We are all pretty much paint agnostic. We love Monument, and I use them for a lot of stuff. In fact, I've moved all my Ultramarines over to that, but they do not make the correct colors for my Mechanicum, so I had to go with two thin coats, because while I like GW, I'm going to be using so much of it that I would go broke buying GW paints to airbrush.
Yep, it's a good point.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and say you have to use Monument, you have to use Vallejo, you have to use GW, you have to use Armor Painter. Find the paints that work best for you. We personally use all kinds of stuff. For example, right here, easy at hand, is Pro Acryl, Monument Hobbies. Right beside it, War Paint, Army Painter. And then I've got another Speed Paint. And then I've got this no-name paint that I got. And I have that because I like the effect of that red and the way it flows. It does not say that you need to use anything from any specific company. Find what works best for you, what you can use it for. Hopefully it's multi-purpose and you can airbrush with it or not if you are using airbrush. But get what works for you and stick with it. And try to retain your formula paint-wise across an army if you are painting an entire army. Because if there's one thing I hate more than anything else, and everyone's heard me rant and ramble about it, is, and I keep it here so I can layer hate on this company. This is AK Streaking Grime. This is the AK Streaking Grime that I used with my World Eaters. I used it for years. It was wonderful. It was great. This is AK-012. This is AK Streaking Grime that I got that is absolutely a different color. It does not work. It does not work in the same spectrum of colors and just leads me to hate. So when people change their formulations, it just pisses me off and irritates me because they don't even look the same on the model. And if there's one thing that I hate, it's having a non-uniform looking model in the middle of a squad when I'm trying to sit there and retain that uniform look. So
that being said, the AK inks that I've tried are really nice.
Yeah. I say this as a joke, but I have sworn off AK because they have done so many different formulations with their stuff and changed those formulations that I just can't stand to use them anymore because I find them to be unreliable in their formulation. So if you find something and you like it, get a couple extras of it so you don't lose it down the road, and try to write your recipes down somewhere. I use Google documents so that I stick my recipes that I'm using into so that somehow I can keep them forever in case this computer crashes and I lose everything that's on it. It's helpful.
The best way
Your
I
mileage
found
may vary.
to do it is only paint Ultramarines, and you can buy all the blues you need, and you never have to worry about remembering something.
Thank you, Jack. That's very helpful. How many different blues do you actually have right now? Just at a rough
that
guess.
I actively use on my Ultramarines, or that
No,
I just have
no.
lying around?
That you just have because you thought it might look good, and then
I don't know, because I buy a lot of blues to find other blues in other companies to match up with the blues that I currently use in case something that I have that company goes belly up. Like Mission Hobbies, I use their blue as a base coat, and I'm not sure if they're still a thing. So I picked up probably 4 or 5 bottles of that off of Amazon a year or two ago.
Okay.
Yeah, they died.
Okay, well, let me go back over here to Amazon. I'll be busy for a minute seeing if I need to buy any more of these.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
I was using them for buildings. I've found some monument colors that are close enough for buildings because they're buildings. But yeah, the problem I have with mission stuff was it was super thin when it went on with an airbrush. I was having to clear coat it before I put anything else on it, or it'd reactivate or do streak or something else. I'd knock it and it'd scratch or some other thing. Sometimes it's nice to have super thin coats, but sometimes you want paint to work like paint before you seal it.
Sometimes it just gets hateful for no reason.
Yep. Especially when you're washing Cobra bases, and one of the processes of that is 6 different colored washes on the flagstone, so that way you get some variation and the damn thing reactivates and turns into mud.
Yep, I remember this. I honestly can't remember any of the other tips and tricks that I have, because most of them I've talked about before in our previous episodes, or there's stuff that we have covered already.
Like they've said, you don't need to be as crazy as I am. I have multiple tools to do multiple jobs. 6 Dremels because I don't like taking the time to swap bits between them. I've got one for each collet size and things like that, because I'm swapping Dremels a lot of times if I'm doing multiple different jobs. The important thing is to find a tool that you like and use it correctly. Don't use your nippers as a pry bar, because it will break them. I've had that happen to me before. I didn't do it. My dad did it to one of my nippers and snapped it in half. Don't use your Dremel tool as a hammer. Things like that.
Or do. We're not your dad.
Duncan.
We're trying to make sure that we don't injure our listeners and watchers. Duncan.
We're not your dad.
Be a man.
You huff the paint. I mean,
if you can smell or taste the fumes that you're currently doing,
You're doing it right.
for painting, you're actively damaging your lungs. So I recommend
Doing it right.
I recommend turning on the fan on your airbrush booth, and if the fan isn't enough, make sure to put on a mask or things like that.
Fuck your lungs. Your lungs will be fine. It's the shit that affects your nervous system that you really got to worry about.
Yeah, I've had those. There was when I was painting my Grey Knights, the paint said it was highly flammable, and my dad used to smoke, and we both kind of looked at each other and wondered why we weren't dead.
Tamiya paints, if you throw them through an airbrush, make certain you have ventilation.
Yep. I talked about a humidity monitor earlier, but I've also bought air quality monitors from Amazon that sync to my phone. It's the only smart device in my house, so that way I can kind of get an idea of how my air quality is. I had asthma as a kid and haven't had attacks in years, but I still like to make sure that I'm still breathing semi-decent air, whether that's from my actual HVAC system or that's from overspraying things. Or one time I dropped a bottle of Tamiya cement, and the one in my hallway and then the one in my bedroom both went off because that stuff is so toxic it just went crazy.
How many of these can I buy off of? Okay. 4 available. 4.
That's like Jeffrey's one on 4 of them. I can't really think of anything else that I can say suggestion-wise.
I talked earlier about the necklace and bracelet making stuff. There's a bunch of really nice wire in there, so you don't always have to use bent paper clips for pinning. You can always buy thin or thicker gauge wire. It's not always the fact that it's a steel pin that sometimes helps it. Or most of the time, if you're building a model, you're not expecting that area that you're pinning to have to put up to the strain of, supporting the whole thing. Sometimes you just need it to be pinned for slightly more strength, not Godzilla strength. So that's why I sometimes just use bracelet wire or 10 gauge wire. This one that I'm holding right now is 16. I use that for all of my flying models on their bases. It's got a little bit of give to it, so that way if I need to move the model on its flying base, or if it's kind of wonky in the storage tray or movement tray.
Oh, one thing I do want to mention we've most of us have pinned things multiple times over the years because we have to. We'll almost all of us will have extra brass rod that we have laying around from things. This is actually my final piece of brass rod from the last time I bought a set, and that's been almost 5-10 years ago at this point. Because I stopped using brass rod, and this is a stupid trick, but it's easy. I guarantee you, if you have mail or you have paperwork or you have a kid that goes to school, you have paper clips everywhere, somewhere. You have them. These work great for pinning things, and they easily cut with a pair of nippers. Don't use your good nippers. Use cheap throwaway nippers.
Or buy actual metal cutting nippers.
Or those. Or just get yourself a $5 set of whatever's from Home Depot or Lowe's or Walmart or wherever during the holiday sales where it's like 10 or 8 or 10 different sets of strange clippers for $5 or $10 at those places during the Christmas sales. Get those, use them. When they go dull, just throw them away because they're cheap and garbage anyway. But they're great for little clipping, little paper clips or whatever, or staples if you are needing to pin something that's even smaller and you don't feel like being Jack and magnetizing every single thing at the wrist, elbow joint, shoulder pad, etc. Because I literally pull these out of mail whenever I get mail, whenever something's like sent to me and there's documents or whatever. It's almost always got paper clips. Save them. You're going to use them.
I know this is
Just a lot of people don't even think about it.
A rhetorical question. How many blue paints is too many?
I probably have more, so don't feel bad.
3.
Because I just bought 4 bottles, and that puts me up to 8 for my base.
I'm not surprised. I'm proud of you. I'm so glad you did that.
That way you can continue to paint one army and not worry about knowing your paint scheme.
Yes.
But I agree with the paper clips. I just went ahead and bought like a box of them from Walmart for like $2. This because I don't believe.
Yeah, no, I get it.
But yeah, on the expanded hobby side, I'll touch quickly on this. As we all know, there's a couple people on this podcast that are avid 3D printers. So they, gloves are a big thing to that. Cleaning your models if you don't have water soluble resin. I use a lot of denatured alcohol to clean the resin off of my models. On some of the bigger units, brass rods, finding the right size brass rods to help support those bigger models. If you're like, I may have acquired the not Donner transport the other weekend, and that model straight up calls for brass rods for stuff. So getting appropriate cutters for those type of things, that's important. Mask, gloves, having those set aside just for that, for cleaning, having dedicated tools for your resin, so you're not worrying about cross contamination. That's important. If you're doing PLA, plastic extrusion printing, sandpaper, the car, the sandable fill primer, having that, that's a good thing for that. Again, for any of the extra stuff that's on the side, I would recommend having tools set aside just for that, so you're not ruining your high dollar hobby stuff on the extracurriculars that you're doing to help support your hobby. If you're doing a lot of terrain, which is a good use for the PLA printing, you don't have to use your hobby paints. The was it Apple Farm or Apple Barn or
Barrel.
Yeah, whatever that is. Those paints are great for terrain. You get like 3 ounces for like $2 at Walmart. You can even find them at like some of the dollar stores. Don't feel the need to utilize Tamiya or any of those paints for that type of thing unless you're looking for a certain thing. Magnets. N52 magnet are best for like if you're magnetizing it to like a metal tray for your display or transportation. There, I use a lot of battle foam for moving my armies around, but that's one of the things. Like once you're in the ecosystem, it's kind of hard to get out of the ecosystem. Not that it's a bad system to be in; it's just a expensive system to maintain. So there's a lot of other things that have like metal trays where you can magnetize, and so long as you're not going through like TSA, they hold up fairly well.
Magnetic sheeting and sticky magnetic sheeting, especially if you want to magnetize the bases of your models. I've been doing that a lot for my Mechanicum. Green Stuff World makes pre-cut base sizes, but you can do it yourself for a lot less money, just with a little extra time.
Whole lot less money.
I'm surprised nobody's mentioned safety glasses yet.
I did.
I don't mention safety glasses because I wear glasses on a regular basis, and I have two sets of these.
Yeah, I'm blind now, so.
Yeah, if you don't have glasses, get some safety glasses.
Mm-hmm.
You'll probably thank yourself later.
Yeah. I've had a metal model almost blind me.
Yep.
I've had to pull 2 different broken nipper heads out of my forearms because somebody else was cutting something on a job site, just like a zip tie, and they shattered, flew, bounced, and embedded themselves into me.
That doesn't surprise me, sadly.
Yep, I've broken a lot of cutoff wheels on Dremels.
Proper PPE, which is kind of why I mentioned the first aid kit earlier. We joke, and I give John absolute hell about him cutting himself on a regular basis. But if you don't have a first aid kit available in your home or in your hobby area, and you do use sharp, pointy things, you should probably look at getting one.
And if you have a lot of electronics, like Duncan was joking earlier about me having to rewire my house.
That was Jack, not me.
That was me.
Jack.
Yeah.
It might not be a terrible idea to have a fire extinguisher nearby.
Yep.
And if you're doing anything too terribly dangerous, try not to do it when you're at home by yourself.
Yep.
That's one thing I do want to make mention of. Check your electronic cords that are around your hobby area. Some of them will be old, some of them may be frayed. If you are using alcohol-based cleaners, you may spray that or use that, and it may actually somehow have found an intermittent spark somewhere, and you might get fire. Like John said, have a fire extinguisher handy. Smoke detectors, those are also nice things to have. It lets the rest of the house know that you had an oops fuck up. So...
No, I don't believe in stealing crickets.
That's fair.
Has anybody
John,
used any new...
We've been at this for a bit now. Go ahead, Jack.
Has anybody tried any new brands of paint recently, like Kaleido or any of those?
I've got some Kickstarters coming in for some fancier metals, but they aren't in yet.
So I use the Hobby Lobby new line of paints that they have. I used the red for one of my kids wanted something painted red, and I was thoroughly impressed with how well it came straight out of bottle, airbrushed, and held up on plastic that wasn't designed to be painted.
I'm not adventurous with my hobbying.
I got this at Adepticon. It's called Blood of Cog. And it's from a company I had never heard of before, but I've used this fairly heavily a little bit. It's called Avante Art Incorporated, AVANTE-ART.com. It's a matte paint. It's for brush and airbrush. I only got this one sample because this was what I was given in my bag, but I've been using this for brick, things like that, and it's a solid little coverage paint. I've not had any issues with it. I have thrown it out on an airbrush a little bit on basing, and I've used it on brush, and it flows really well. The one thing I will make note of on this is this dries really fast. even with a thinner added to it, it seems to really, really dry quickly, no matter what
So
I do.
add retarder.
Yep. So I've been adding an airbrush medium to it, not a retarder, but it's still giving me the same thing. It still dries out really quickly. So one thing I do like about their lid is it's got the insert into it, so that when you close it, it will double stopper it. You're not just sealing off the top, but you're also sealing off the bottom of the entire thing. But that is something that I've been playing with. So if you have them available to you, give them a shot, give them a try. Like I said, they're definitely different. They're a different brand. It's not bad art. It's not bad paint. It's quick and it does well through an airbrush. I've been mixing it with thinner to about a 1-to-1 to airbrush, and it does rather well. So that's the only new paint line that I've tried lately.
Well, I think that takes it over to the audience. Is there anything that you knew that we have not discussed? Any tricks, cheats, whatever cool new buzzwords, anything you have discovered? There we go. That's a good term everybody uses now. Let us know.
We
Especially
appreciate all
on Wednesday
feedback and
nights.
ideas and things we could actually use ourselves and pass on to others who might need stuff as well.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like Jack said, especially on Wednesday nights.
Yeah, that's where I got the new paint racks from Odin.
Yep, he's really good at finding things like that.
Yeah, the microset inside the watercolor markers was one that I was given a couple years ago, and I've just kept passing it on. That's honestly saved me so much time and tipped over paints.
Shall we step over to the 2026 Army Challenge?
I want to clarify something.
Oh, go ahead.
Earlier, I think John mentioned Brian and paint racks. That was not this Brian. This Brian uses gallon Ziploc bags like a freaking heathen.
Hey, I throw stuff in the cardboard boxes, so I don't really feel too much different than the heathen.
The reason those paint racks are empty is because I'm still sorting out a bunch of paints that I've bought and or used in the last few months, and so they're just in tubs right now.
Gallon Ziploc bags is where I put my old paints at. That way I can find them.
I mean, it works. Whatever you do for organization.
So, do I need to open up a screen someplace for something? What are we doing? I'm so confused right now.
So, I will share
your heart.
The RNG screen.
Jack is confused. He heard himself in the confusion.
We had 6 people who were successfully able to complete the 500-point round challenge for round 3 of the 2026 Army Challenge. For the winner, we have a glaive, brand new, coming to you courtesy of Preston's Hobby Shack down in Tennessee, run by our friends Joe Kirkus and David Sampson. So there are 6 successful completion entrants. I think I will run the random number generator 6 times to figure out who is going to be, since that's how many people we had total entered. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and this one will be the winner. Number 6, which is looking to be Andrew.
Didn't he willfully abstain from this one because he won the last one?
You know what? You're right. He did. So we'll run it one more time, and I will delete Andrew from that. Oop, 5. I'll run it 5 more times. 1, 2, 3, 4.
He's
5.
probably kicking himself squarely in the ass cheeks right now.
Yep, and I've got to do that. Otherwise, it's not going to do it right. So 5.
1.
That makes it Atreus Colso.
Atreus.
I believe That is going to be our friend Matt Callis down. Yep, that is our friend Matt down in Tennessee or Alabama.
Oh.
Matt, congratulations, sir. You get a glaive. I will not even need to get with you to get your address because I already have that.
Creepy.
So I
Creepy.
will. Well, I was going to mail him something out this weekend or this week anyway. So I will get that into the mail for you this week. Congratulations, sir. We look forward to seeing what you do with it. Again, thank you to everyone who did participate. Hopefully, those who didn't manage to successfully get to the end this month or this quarter or 2-month period can do it again for the next 2-month period. Because we have already started the 2026 Summer Challenge Round 4, which will be running from now through September the 5th. So that will be the final entry day. Again, your goal is to paint and build 500 points of the whatever army you're working on. And we will be doing the drawing and giveaway on the first recording after 9/5. We'll do it again live on here.
Okay.
Yeah. So, again, thank you to everyone who did enter and did participate. Hopefully more people will be able to actually reach their end goal this time. Next month we are giving away, or not next month, but next time on this contest, we are giving away that strange battle box. John, what was in that GW just released? It had the
Sakaran, Assault
the
Marines, TAC
Sakaran,
Squads,
Assault
and
Marines,
Contemptor.
TAC Squad. Yeah, that's what we are giving away. Again, being sponsored by Preston's Hobby Shack, so thank you to them. Do we have any event shout-outs that we need to do?
We've got my event in Risco, Texas coming up on the 18th of July at New World Gaming.
Okay. Barbara?
Sorry, had Jack's meat in my mouth.
That escalated quickly.
July 18th as well at Far Harbor Games in Grand Rapids, Michigan. There is a 1,500 point Zone Mortalis event. I don't know how much space they have left in the event, but I believe you can find them on Best Coast Pairings. Should be a good time.
I know that the guys up in Cincinnati for Bolters at Dawn are doing their next BolterCon event. They've put the dates and everything out on that. You can find that at Bolters at Dawn. I think it's boltersatdawn.com is their website. Yeah, boltersatdawn.com. That is trying to find the dates. That is right around November the 12th, 13th, 14th, and 15th of this year. So they have player packets and everything. Are running Heresy events there and on top of 40K, Sigmar, all the other stuff. We are an official sponsor of the Heresy stuff going on there. So there is a narrative going on. There's a packet there. Specifically, the Heresy stuff is running for their narrative on the Saturday, which is the 14th, and the 15th, which is the Sunday. They also are running stuff after dark as well, and we are sending posters and swag up to them. Maybe some of us will actually even be going. We will see. You can find more information about that out over in our upcoming events channel, where it's been posted by one of their guys. And shout out to Ben Marsh, who's currently planning stuff and getting stuff ready for Nova, which is over there in Virginia. I don't know the dates on that one off the top of my head, but I'm sure you can find it or we'll fix that. And we are officially, I think it's 9 months away or 10 months away from Adepticon 2026. So,
276 days.
276 days from Adepticon 2027. Time to get your armies and everything ready. Start cracking. I need to start doing that myself.
I need to manufacture another Xiphon.
Get the forged fires cranking, sir. Anybody
Already
got anything
painted.
else to shout out?
No, just looking for the dates for Nova because I don't know them off the top of my head.
Thank you for that.
Is that August or July?
It is
I think
really
it's
hard
August.
to find on their Facebook page.
I think it's August. The Nova is September the 2nd through the 6th of 2026.
There you go.
Way off.
Yep. You can find them at novaopen.com. And as always, thank you all to all our patrons and friends who make all this, and our sponsors who make all this easy and workable. We appreciate all of you all. Jack, tell John to take it out.
John, tell Brian to tell yourself to take it out.
Everybody, thank you for joining us on this, the 176th episode of the Heresy Accountabilibuddies Podcast. My name is John, and tonight I've been joined by...
The letter P.
Which would be Brian somehow, but with a P. I'm over here. I'm still Duncan.
The number purple?
That'd be Jack, because Jack is Jack.
Always remember to stay accountable to your friends, to your buddies, and your hobby, and we'll talk to you next time.
Why do you gotta be so hateful to me, Duncan?
I'm not. I'm being polite and reminding you of your name, because you're old and senile.
Oh my god.
Like and subscribe and see ya.